Welcome to the show the podcast community is calling Access Involvement. I'm Billy Ferris, and each week I am joined by a different member of the team of student involvement. This week, it's Coordinator for Student Governance, Pearson Brown. Pearson, how you doing?
Doing well. And just to make sure, we can edit out all the minutes before this and me being nervous, right?
Oh, we can edit all of that out.
Perfect.
Yeah, is this your first podcast?
First podcast to be speaking into. I've listened to a few, but first to actually be the subject for.
The subject, yeah, that's what we'll call it. Then that means no matter what, this is going to be the best you've ever done on a podcast.
It's true.
So, like, we can only go
up.
Only go up or down.
Right.
So, so I think this is going to be great. Let's start with pop quiz, because I want people to get to know you a little bit better and see what you do. So, pop quiz. There are no rules, by the way, to pop quiz. I like to point that out. So, answer any way you'd like, and then we'll riff on it. Number one, if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I have to go with pizza, just because if you only get one meal or only one food that you can eat at every meal, then pizza you can do for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so, yeah, if could have it the night before and then cold pizza, I think you could just make that last the longest any time of day.
See, you're so much smarter than me, because I'm thinking like my mom's spaghetti and meatballs. But that would, no offense if you're watching, Mom, that would probably get old after week 2, 3, 4. There's so many different kinds of pizza. There's breakfast pizza. Mm-hmm. There's dessert pizzas. Mm-hmm. So, like, you could just go to Cece's and, official pizza of the podcast, I guess. I don't know. That's not true at all. But that's smart. That's a good practical answer. Number 2, what's your favorite tradition? And this can be campus. It can be just personal, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, we'll go campus tradition and definitely Heyday. So, I've been very fortunate to help support the student team that plans Heyday, and this past year's Heyday specifically was special for a lot of reasons. One, with just being such an abnormal year during the pandemic, was Heyday really felt like it provided a sense of normalcy on campus that day. And so with just students being able to safely gather on the campus green and just having name tag stations out. And also Heyday was on my birthday, so I promise I didn't intentionally plan that, but when the students sang happy birthday for me on the campus green was a pretty great way to celebrate.
Makes it a special Heyday.
Exactly.
Yeah. My favorite campus tradition, it's kind of cliche to say, but Roland Toomer's Corner, right? That's like the quintessential Auburn experience is Roland Toomer's Corner.
Favorite game that ever led up to you Roland Toomer's Corner?
Ooh.
Do I get to ask questions?
Someone doesn't know the rules of the podcast. This is my show, sir. No. You're welcome to ask questions. My favorite experience Roland Toomer's Corner, it would actually probably be a game where Auburn beat Mississippi State on a last-second field goal, and it was a game I came to when I was a senior in high school, when I had not decided where I was going to go yet. By the end of that game and by the end of being at Toomer's Corner, there was no longer a decision about where I was going to go. So that was like my first exposure to being in Toomer's Corner, being at a football game, seeing how everything went. So I was hooked on Auburn from that moment on. That's probably mine. Do you have any more questions? All right, number 3. What fictional character would you most want as a roommate?
I think I might go with Mike Wazowski with Monsters, Inc., thinking about the scene where him and Sully wake up and he's getting Sully hyped up for the day, a morning person, and so being able to have someone there that could help just get you hyped up and ready to work. So,
I would go with the Flash.
Ooh,
because think about all the menial household chores you have to do. He could get them done like that. And then you wouldn't have to spend time doing them.
So, see, I went practical for the meal, but you went practical for the roommates. So
yeah. And, I mean, the downside of mine is there's a long list of enemies that might put me in danger to get to the superhero. But you know what? If I never had to clean or, he could just bring me places, that'd be fun. It's worth it.
And they come and you just say, his room's over there.
His room's over there. Just leave me alone and let me sleep in, please. Number 4, what is your top stress relief activity?
Enjoy running a lot. I feel like, that's when I talk about waking up early, a lot of times it is to run. And so I think running's just a good way just to kind of go off the grid for a little while and just run around Auburn area, especially going in the morning when campus is so calm, is a lot of fun. Cool. So,
number 5, if you won the lottery, what's the first thing you would buy?
We'll probably go with just sports tickets to some extent, thinking about big events that I've never gotten to go to, like Super Bowl or Masters, and so figuring out one of those to purchase to, and then purchasing tickets and getting myself to and from there.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Mine, just for the comedic effect of it, I think I would stop at Taco Bell And just so when everyone asks you, like, what is the first thing? You won $1 billion. What's the first thing? Cheesy gordita crunch. Just like, I don't know. I just think that would be funny.
So what I'm hearing is this is the Taco Bell podcast brought to you by Cece's Pizza.
I mean, if they want to send us anything, anyone can donate. But yeah, I just think that would be funny because I think everyone's expecting like a car or a house or I don't know.
Yeah.
Tacos,
Taco Bell.
Tacos.
It's practical again.
Yeah, practical. And it's easy because like I'm going to want to spend some time thinking about like the big purchases, even if it doesn't matter anymore. But Taco Bell, why not? So number 6, on an airplane. I think this tells you a lot about someone. On an airplane, would you rather the window seat or the aisle seat?
Aisle seat, no doubt.
Explain.
Then I think if now this was 8-year-old Pearson answering would have said window seat, but I think I've since learned what the airport looks like from the plane. And so being able to sit on the aisle seat allows you to stretch up and then just ease of access if you need to get up. And especially on the window, then you have to crawl over everyone. So yeah, I would go aisle seat.
I think Michael Scott has the answer from The Office.
Okay.
And he says the middle seat because then I have 2 potential new friends to talk to on the flight. But at the risk of not becoming that person on the flight, I like the window seat still just because I like somewhere to look, even if it's just the clouds. I like something to look at during the flight.
Yeah. Because I feel like, to Michael Scott's point, there is a little bit of etiquette as the plane is starting to descend. Then you do that like short. So it's like, this your final destination? You have that like 30-second conversation, very surface level, so they can like, that person next to me was nice. Move on.
It was nice. I can't tell you their name.
Right.
I can't tell you anything about them, but they sure were interested if I was on a connector.
Right.
Yep. That's the perfect etiquette for airplanes.
I got that question down pat.
And also, like, I like to be in the window seat because, like, if I try to, like, not have to get up during a flight, but, like, I don't want to be in the aisle seat having to constantly get up for people to leave. I want to just settle and not move until the flight lands.
Right.
That's what I want. All right, last pop quiz question. If you could be on any game show, which one would you be on and why?
What is Jeopardy?
What is Jeopardy? Jeopardy is a trivia show. Where
Recently read Alex Trebek's autobiography, and so I think just from reading that was neat, hearing about all that goes in, or that he used to put in, leading into episodes, and just the way he would interact with the audience and the people competing. So I feel like it's just such an iconic show. I think it would go with Jeopardy.
Do you have bonus question? Do you have a strong preference of like who his replacement permanent host is? Because they brought in a ton of temporary hosts.
Right, and it's almost one of those, I think, maybe it's been neat just seeing all the different people, like how Aaron Rodgers went on, and so some Ken Jennings and just some former champions as well. So I feel like he can't be replaced, so just like host by committee.
Okay.
Could be.
Host by committee, at least for a couple years.
Right.
Big Brother is my answer.
Okay.
I would love to go on Big Brother, except for the 24/7 cameras. Like, I don't think I could do that. I don't want people watching me all the time, believe it or not. But I think Big Brother, it's like human chess, and I think that would be so fascinating to be a part of. I also recognize, like, I could also very easily be like the first person voted out of the house. But I think that would be a ton of fun. That's like my biggest TV guiltiest pleasure is Big Brother in the summer. And I think it would be so fun to do all like the dumb competitions. I think like trying to figure out like who's lying to you, who isn't lying to you. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah. So that's what I'd do. Okay. All right, that was pop quiz. You passed, as everyone has so far. So we haven't had anyone fail pop quiz. So that's a good time.
That's good.
But now we're going to get into our next segment called Let's Get Personal, where we're going to get later on into the specifics of what you do here, the groups you work with. This is all about kind of you and your journey that has gotten you to student involvement at Auburn. As we always do, we're going to start with the start. Where are you from?
Houston, Texas. And so I feel like I also need to clarify that I'm from Houston, because Houston, very similar to a lot of major cities like Atlanta, has a lot of urban sprawl. And so I realized then when I went to college and would tell people I'm from Houston, someone else would be like, I'm from Houston too. And then you'd realize they were from like 50 minutes away. And so there is a weird point of pride of people that are from like the center of Houston, inside the loop, to go out of your way to let people know that you live inside the loop. And so just for all our loyal listeners out there, I'm from inside the loop.
Inside the Houston loop. Atlanta's the same way. Because like I say Atlanta, but like Atlanta can mean middle of Atlanta, or it can mean like 50 minutes to an hour outside of Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not inside the loop of Atlanta, so I'm not one of the cool people like you being in the loop.
Right. Yeah. See what you
know,
did there.
I strive to be as cool as Pearson Brown. Haven't made it yet. One day. Maybe.
One day.
Probably not. So what was it like growing up there?
I really liked it. It was neat growing up inside, a large city, so there was a lot of different things going on. Lived 6 houses down from my elementary school, and so that was neat being able to walk in the morning and home after school, and so, yeah, no complaints. Always getting to travel back home to Houston is always something that is a lot of fun, something I look forward to. Don't know if it's on here, but hope to one day retire to Houston, so it's a big retirement destination of mine.
Spoiler alert for those
Right.
following Pearson's career. When you go back home, are there a couple things you try to a couple spots you try to hit no matter what, or do you mix it up?
See, that's the fun thing about being out of town, but having a lot of friends growing up that are back in Houston permanently. And so I feel like whenever I do come in town, it's easy to get a bunch of people together because it's like, I tell myself it's like a very exciting, novel event.
I am
right.
here, basically.
It's a good look.
Yeah.
But different restaurants that we went to a lot growing up. One place frequented, I feel like this is just more of a staple amongst our high school friend group, was Bubba's Buffalo Burger Shack, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a Buffalo Burger Shack, which is built under the West Park Tollway, and they recently did sell out and got running water and TVs, but growing up was a lot of fun just to eat in this shack that was quite literally under a highway.
Okay. Those are always the best places,
Right.
though.
Mm-hmm.
Those are always, if it looks like a shack and not anyone that is a tourist knows about it, it's going to be the best food. Yeah.
So.
And then I know this, but I'll ask, Houston sports fan?
Absolutely. So
I'm going to give you the platform to talk about the Astros for 30 seconds. What do you want to? Do you want to go into defense mode, or do you want to just talk about the Astros?
So growing up, the Astros were a large part of my childhood, especially living inside Houston, as I don't know if I've mentioned. I feel like I have to mention that at least 2 or 3 more
I didn't
times.
know you were from Texas until just now.
And what was exciting was because the Astros were so bad throughout high school, we got to go to games for so cheap because tickets were easy to get, the stadium was empty, parking was easy as well. And so I think because we were so bad, became such a big fan. And then I actually recently saw something which was talking about how if you look at people that have Facebook and like a Major League Baseball team and you look at their age, there is a ample higher chance that team went to the World Series when that person was in middle school aged. And so when I was in 6th grade, the Astros went to the World Series and got to go to Game 4 of that. So it was fun. Came home from school and my mom asked me if I had a lot of homework that night. I said, no, not really. She said, oh, so you won't be worried going to the game tonight.
I wonder what would have happened if you said, yeah, I have a lot of homework. You just never would have known.
Just
you
done it at the game. Nice quiet environment.
I know you
No.
would. I know you would not have done that at the game. You would have done it when you got home from the game, but you would not have done it at the game. When you were growing up, did you know, hey, I want to go and work in higher education, or was there something else you wanted to do?
Yeah, every year for Halloween, I dressed up as a student affairs professional, which got a lot of looks on the neighborhood. No, growing up, we also lived so close to Rice University, so I've realized that colleges were always in the peripheral, and so it was something that I feel like a lot of things I would spend time thinking about in growing up and in high school, like college sports and things like that, were truly pointing me towards wanting to work in higher education without ever connecting those dots.
I was the same way. I always liked, before I did this, I liked training interns was my favorite part of the jobs and doing all that stuff. And then eventually a light bulb just kind of clicks, oh, I could just make that what I do. Yeah. So when did you know, this is what I want?
Yeah, it was the summer going into my senior year. So went to Baylor University for undergrad in Waco, Texas, and when I was there, end of my junior year, was elected student body president and really enjoyed that experience so much and got to interact a lot with Baylor's vice president for student life, Dr. Kevin Jackson, and through getting to really know him and see all the work he did, started to become more interested in the university administration and see how decisions were made, and just realizing there was so much that was happening on campus that you don't really realize that there's people that work at the campus rec. You just kind of assume it's just always up and running.
Just all operates on its own, right?
So while that was happening, was also a business major and was doing a required internship for my business degree and absolutely hated my internship. And so here it was loving all things involvement and hating all things internship. And so would kind of spend time during my internship doing student government, and would basically, as soon as like I would be done working for the day, I would start working on student government. And so about midway through the summer, my parents asked me, so if this company you're working for were to give you a job offer, would you take it? And I said, no. I said, if you ever want to stress your parents out, like after like sending you to college and like you having a good internship and just responding with like, no, I'm going to turn this down.
Good.
And they said, so what are you going to do? And told them, I said, I want to be like Dr. Jackson. And from that, they sent, my dad the next day found an article that Dr. Jackson had written titled Why Student Affairs Might Be For You. And he emailed it to me and said, okay, I could see why you were interested in doing this. And so classic student affairs journey, like then realized like, this could be a career, and met with Dr. Jackson as well as some other people at Baylor to learn more about what going into student affairs specifically would look like. And so spent my senior year interviewing for both businesses and applying for student affairs master's programs. And so kind of moved through those processes simultaneously. And then in February, flew out to UGA and had a fun weekend there, just getting to see a new campus and got to interact with a bunch of faculty and current students, and then really realized this was something that was super interested in. They had us do like a mock class and was like, wait, this is fun. And so I was the kid that like came and like had read everything in the article they said and like highlighted it 3 different times and was really ready to talk about it.
That does not surprise me at all. So what made you pick Baylor?
So Baylor specifically was my mom went there, and so wanted to go to a place it was 3 hours from Houston, so far enough away but easy enough to get home.
So you mentioned being the president, the SGA president at Baylor. Were you involved in other things? Was it all SGA for you, or what was that? What was your involvement like at Baylor?
Did Greek life, but primarily it was student government. It was just did student senate and was in that for 2 years, and then it was, I guess, going into senior year, then became student body president.
What would you say, like, what was your proudest thing you did while you were the president?
There was a lot. I think just a couple things we got to do with working with Baylor's Board of Regents, as we called them, but also I think just really trying to work on just the culture within SGA and trying to find ways to really make it an organization that people enjoyed being a part of, and building deeper connections from that, trying to move away from just being a very political organization to more focused on an organization that was focused on building a better Baylor, as we say.
Okay. And without getting too much into specifics of what you do here, how did your experience being in SGA, being the SGA president in Baylor, inform what you do with student government at Auburn?
Yeah, so it was interesting because Baylor did not have a full-time advisor, and so I felt like as president kind of played that role to an extent of just working with younger students and helping them think through their ideas. And so I think it gave me a little bit of an understanding of just how things like the Code of Laws work, but also thinking about how can you use an organization to create change across all aspects of campus.
Gotcha. If you could go back to day one of college right now, but knowing everything you currently know, what would you do differently? Yeah,
I think it's something immediately and practically I would do. I would have printed out my entire schedule. So I printed out, but I would have actually pulled all of it off the printer. So my very first day of class, like a good little freshman Baylor Bear, I printed off my schedule before I left Houston to go, so I knew where everything was. And then the first day, met with an academic advisor, and I remember her saying, do you know you're supposed to be in class right now? And I had like a 3:30 class, and because it had printed vertically, that was on the second page, and I only grabbed the first page. And so my very first day of school as a freshman, skipped class unintentionally and ended up running in as class was over and apologizing to the professor, and he probably already thinks I'm just gonna fail, this is over. And so yeah, I think knowing what I know now, that is definitely a change that I would make.
We have actually not a similar answer, because I don't know if that's my full answer to that, but I'm not going to retell the whole story because I've told it on a previous episode, but I was also late to one of my first ever college classes for totally different reasons. It was I saw an involvement opportunity and ran to it. But also you are someone who's never late. I'm also someone who's never late. So I do think it's kind of funny that we were both late to one of our first ever classes. That's kind of funny. You graduated from Baylor. You went to Georgia for your master's, and talk about that experience a little bit.
Really enjoyed it. So got to share a little bit about kind of what led me to Georgia, but then what was actually there. Really enjoyed spending 2 years there focusing on just college student affairs administration, and was able to support, help advise University Union, which is their equivalent to UPC. So planned a lot of events. Would do late night events called Dogs After Dark, or DADS as we called them. And those were events that would start late at night to provide an alternative to just at-risk behaviors. And so we also had a movie theater in our student center, so getting to help support that committee that was planning it, as well as other fun events. I think one of my favorite ones we did was Up in UGA, where we brought a hot air balloon and put it in the middle of Myers Quad, which is a central part on UGA's campus. And so it was tethered down and would go about 30 feet and then set students back down. But was a event that I think just kind of promoted itself, because you would be walking or driving by and being like, why is there a hot air balloon? And then you were able to do it. So
that would do it. And then I guess we'll just break the personal news, talk about, this is the part where I get sad, but talk about come mid-July of this year, what you're doing.
So mid-July, we'll be returning back to the University of Georgia to get my PhD in higher education. So being at Auburn for the past 3 years now, has been such an amazing experience for just so many reasons. And I think being here has affirmed my passion for higher education. And because of the skills I learned here, I've, just been able to see how capable higher education is of just bettering the community and just developing students as individuals, and that is what has made me want to just know that this is the field that I want to stay in. And so pursuing another graduate degree. So letter of resignation has been submitted effective July 16th. So I guess that's why they're not having me on the podcast. So I can't do that bad because they're already sending me out. So
I think we're all just hoping, he went to Georgia for grad school, then
right.
came to Auburn, then he went to Georgia for PhD. Maybe he'll come back to
and
Auburn.
interned at Auburn in between years 1 and 2 for Georgia for my master's.
Parent
so
and family programs, right?
And helped out with Camp War Eagle as well. That was summer 17. So really just ping-ponged him back and forth between the two. So looking forward to doing a follow-up episode in 4 or 5 years when I'm back here.
So I think I can speak for everyone in the office, though, and hopefully beyond the office. This is I think all the programs that you touched while you were here are better for having you here. And I think you made a very positive impact in a lot of places. So I think you're doing kind of the classic example of leaving it better than you found it.
Thank you, and please don't forget to send me the invoice for those comments.
It wasn't cheap.
But it's what has been so exciting is getting to work, one, as a staff member amongst a team that you truly know everyone is there and wants to help you out with what you're doing, and being able to be in an environment where everyone is passionate about what they're doing and wants to perform at a higher level. And really, I think when everyone around you is going above and beyond to just bring their best to work every day, it makes you want to do that as well. And also just the students here that you get to work with go above and beyond to respectfully advocate, as SGA does, in really representing students well in it, because they do believe in leaving the environment they're in a better place than where they found it.
Last question, and let's get personal. What's something you like to spend your time doing away from work?
Really like watching sports a lot. It was funny, we talked about what TV shows you like to watch, and I was like, I just watch live sports. But I think enjoying live sports is fun.
Cool. All right. You also, I know eating local is something you like to do a lot. What's your top, in Auburn, what's your best, this is the local place everyone has to go?
Would go with Amsterdam.
Okay.
And the reason for Amsterdam is I think it is sometimes because it is one of the top restaurants in the city, but it might not always be the first place people think about. So by the time you factor in price and wait time, then I think the holistic experience is Amsterdam without a doubt. Okay. As the indoor-outdoor area, so would go with Amsterdam.
Okay. We're going to take a break now from asking you questions about you,
Okay.
and we're going to go into midterms. That is when I'm going to ask you 10 trivia questions, kind of catered toward you and your interests. And I'm going to keep track of the standings, and those should be on your screen if you are watching along at home right now. Right now, we have Alexis Davis in first place with 6. Amy Shugart has 5 pending review. And Dana and Alonzo are tied with 2 in third place. So you got to tie or beat 2 to kind of get on the podium.
Gotcha.
So you got 10 questions. You ready for midterms?
I think so. This is just preparing me for my future.
Preparing you for
come
your
October,
PhD.
and
This is going to be so much harder than your PhD,
Right.
I think. Okay. Number 1. You've been at Auburn. You've been at Georgia. Auburn played its first football game ever against the University of Georgia. What year did that happen?
1876.
1892. Close.
Okay.
Close. Respectably close. All right, I think you've mentioned you're from Texas. Which soft drink, this is multiple choice, which soft drink was invented in the state of Texas?
Dr. Pepper.
He did not need the multiple choice.
That's worth 2, right?
We'll see. I don't know. They're already mad at me for changing the questions up, so maybe it is worth 2. We'll find out. She's only holding up a 1. I'm being told it's only worth 1.
Yeah.
It's going to be Coke, Pepsi, RC Cola, and Dr. Pepper, but you had that. I feel like you're going to get the other Texas questions right now. We'll see how that goes. Although you kind of had to get at least one of the Texas questions right?
In Waco, so. Dr. Pepper Museum is in Waco, so.
Still only worth 1 point. He's trying. Still only worth 1 point. Number 3, you were a big fan of Burger Wars in downtown Opelika. Just happened. This is also another multiple choice question.
Okay.
How many total grilling stations were set up at Burger Wars, according to the OA News article about it? Okay, I'm going to give him the choices this time.
Give me the choices.
Okay. 17, 22, 36, 26, 31.
31.
22. It did seem like it was more than that. Yeah. Number 4, you mentioned The Office is a show you have watched. In Michael Scott's office, there's a World's Best Boss mug.
Yes.
Who bought that for him?
I got it down to Jim or Dwight. I'm going to go with Jim.
It was Michael Scott.
Of course.
He bought it for himself. Number 5. Sam Houston is a very famous figure in the state of Texas, but he was not born there. Where was Sam Houston born?
Virginia.
Yep. He's getting the Texas questions right. he is on brand right now, folks. So you're on 2. You're on the podium. So you're on the podium. Number 6. One of your first jobs was at Panera Bread. What was that company originally called?
St. Louis Bread Company.
Yep. 3. All right. I can tell when you know it because there's like no hesitation. You're the first person, by the way, that answered a multiple choice question without even waiting to see if there were choices. Usually even the non-multiple choice questions, people are waiting and hoping. Dr. Pepper. All right, so we're at 3.
So I'm at 3.
We're at 3. So you're at least in 3rd place right now by yourself.
And
which means Dana and Alonzo are being animated off the podium, and you're coming on to it.
So I'm in 3rd, and that was question 6.
Yeah, so you have 4 questions left.
Okay.
So here we go. You got to go on a good run here. You're a fan of the Houston Astros. What was the original name of that franchise?
Colt 45s.
Colt 45s. Again, the Texas questions he gets right. Unfortunately, I do have 1 Texas question left, so I'm guessing he'll get to 5. So he has 4. So he's either 1 behind Amy or tied with Amy. We're still waiting. The review board has not moved yet on her situation.
Wait, so I'm behind the person that is reviewing whether or not I get multiple points for, okay, that's, yeah. Can we get an audit on the audit?
She's saying it's not worth 2 points for multiple choice. I ultimately get to make that call. And there's a trivia review board that I answer to. But so we'll see what they say. But right now it's 4.
Okay.
Right now it's 4. And based on last week, I'm going to say it stays at 4 because don't want to get in trouble again. All right, number 8. What is older? Automobiles or telephones?
Automobiles.
Telephones. Telephones were 1876. Automobiles were 1885. So it was close. It was close. Number 9. Baylor alum Chip Gaines from HGTV's Fixer Upper teamed up with friends to start a company while attending Baylor. What was that company named?
I have no idea.
I'll either throw a name out, but I will actually count it if you can tell me what type of business it was.
Was it home improvements?
It was not.
Okay.
It was the Baylor Wash and Fold.
Ooh.
It was a laundry service for students.
Okay.
Number 10. This is your last one, so this is to jump into a tie for 2nd or stay in 3rd by yourself. You said your family, well, when I asked you where the nationality of your family was, you said Texas. But there's English and German back there somewhere.
Right.
So I'm going to go with England.
Okay.
What is the national animal of England? I will give you a hint. I've given most people a hint to at least one question. This is an animal that would be very common to find in a zoo. It's not like a great hint, but it's a hint. additional hint, because I'm feeling generous. You would definitely find one featured in a Disney movie.
The lion.
Yep. So he gets 5.
Madagascar.
And I'm in trouble again. The Lion King is a Disney movie.
Madagascar's what? Pixar? -2. Okay. Just off the podium. Welcome back, Dana and Alonzo.
You're at 5. You're at 5, so you're tied for second.
Okay.
But I do think that means you're not going to get a bonus point for not multiple choice.
That's fair. I'll respect that.
That's a good trivia performance, so 5 right. That's very good. So after that trivia performance, we are going to jump into Let's Get Professional, where we're going to talk about your job. So you are the coordinator for student governance. So you primarily advise Student Government Association, which we'll just say SGA for the rest of this, which I always try to explain the acronyms. So just talk about what a typical day looks like for you, which is a hard question because I'm guessing they all look different.
Yeah, most days look different, but for the most part, we'll meet one-on-one with most of the executive officers weekly, and so that's a time for them to come in and talk through the different projects and initiatives they're working on and try to just serve as a sounding board to really help them grow their ideas and give them the tools that they need to, whether it's just to best lead their team or to advocate to administrators while trying to think through the lens of how can we best prepare them for their career, because you don't just want them to be a great executive officer in SGA, but more so how can we make sure they're going on to be great doctors, lawyers, teachers, and just whatever they do beyond their time at Auburn. So spend a lot of time just getting to meet one-on-one with students or sometimes attending their meetings that they're leading with just different teams. SGA, as I've talked about, like plans Heyday, and so as we're gearing up for Heyday, we'll have a lot of meetings with the team of students that plans Heyday. Each Monday night, we have cabinet meets, and then student senate meets after that. So student senate is open to any student at Auburn University is able to come attend senate and speak during senate during open forum at the beginning, just so they can share their opinions on legislation to their senators who are elected to then vote on their behalf. So just really doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work to position those students for success, whether it's in large meetings like senate or just individual meetings with myself.
All right, so tell me about what SGA's core mission is and some of the things they do to go about fulfilling that every year.
So SGA's core or mission statement is serving and promoting the individual student, unifying all that is Auburn. So we a lot of times condense that to serve, promote, unify. And so with every initiative or program that we're putting on, it's thinking about how is this program serving and promoting the individual student, unifying all that is Auburn. And so there's a couple different ways we do that that haven't talked about, as well as something as Auburn Answers, which is SGA's online feedback system. So any student can submit an Auburn Answers at aub.ie/Auburn Answers. And SGA is a team of students who will provide that student with a response within 48 hours. And so by giving students the opportunity to voice their concerns, complaints, or suggestions and questions, SGA can then take that to administrators to show that, hey, this isn't just our perspective on a topic, but here's what the student body is saying. And it allows students to really help advocate, and voice some of the changes they're hoping to see on campus.
As your time here is kind of going to get sad again, going to come to an end, what are some of the best things you think SGA has accomplished while you've been here? And I think Auburn Answers may be one of those, but maybe a few other things you haven't talked about.
Something that I'm incredibly proud of was 2 years ago, the team, SGA executive team, one of their goals was to bring a sexual assault nurse examiner or SANE program to campus. And so they were able to partner with many different areas of campus and fundraise through Tighter Giving Day, and had just under 800 individual donors and collectively raised about $55,000, which was used to bring that program to campus. And so can have those exams available, and making sure it's just another way for Auburn to just make sure that we're advocating for survivors and doing everything we can to have a welcoming and Auburn family.
What's been the biggest surprise or most unexpected part of the job that you found?
There's a lot. I think this is just a lot of times working with college students is really realizing you have to specify AM or PM on a lot of meetings when they say.
At times you may not think.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we're going to meet at 10 a.m.
If for students listening, if we say
Right.
10, we're
Always.
always talking about AM.
Right.
Unless it's up all night.
Right.
Which is
Or one event a year where come out at midnight and
come out at midnight, help students fuel up for final studying, for overnight studying. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's for me too. The most surprising thing for me is always some of the different conversations you have with students. Where when you take the job as an advisor, you think, oh, they're gonna want to talk to me about student government, or they're gonna want
Right.
to talk to me about the TV station or the newspaper. But just the wider range of things they'll come for advice for, which I think is also one of the coolest parts of the job. The different things you have a chance to talk to people about and learn about. But that's one of those where when I ask you what's a day look like, I kind of ask that knowing, well, he's going to say every day looks different because it depends on what the needs of the students are every day. But what has been your favorite part of the job?
It's so cliche just to say working with students. But working with students truly is something that I've enjoyed so much, and getting to see them grow and develop, and especially when you meet with them for the first time and they're coming in saying, I just got elected or appointed to this position and I truly have no clue what's going on, to then watching them just in the span of a couple months become autonomous and how they're moving forward through things. And then you're going less from telling them what to do to more of just being their sounding board. And so just to the end of the year when they are really have hit their stride and are looking back on how much they grew, not just through SGA, but personally as well. I think another part of my job that truly enjoy is just working on a college campus. It is fun just being able to walk through campus at the end of the day and just I'll cut through the quad and just seeing all the buildings. And then some days when I'll walk to work every now and then, we'll like cut through Samford Lawn and Toomer's Corner, and just being on a college campus where you see students out playing spike ball or just having fun. There's so many different things happening, not just with students hanging out leisurely, but also sporting events going on, and just so many different things happening. As being on a college campus is a ton of fun.
That was one of the most challenging parts of the last year when we were in like full remote operations. We were all working from home. I didn't realize until then how much I fed off the energy of the campus. And when I say the campus, I guess really I'm talking about the students and what they're doing on campus. But I did not realize how much energy I drew from that until we were all working from home, which of course we needed to be. That was the right thing to do.
Right.
But I was like, wow, I did not realize like how much I kind of fed off that energy. Did you find that too? Was that a bit of a challenge for you as well?
Yes, we did. I mean, Zoom fatigue was real, and that was something that I think students felt, staff and faculty felt it, to the same extent. So being able to safely do events in person was something that I think definitely gained back a lot of energy, and something that was proud of is how we were able to find ways to make different events work throughout the year and do it in a way that was safe and promoted student health and well-being. It's always funny, too, especially now over the summer where things are so much more quieter, especially on a non-Camp War Eagle day in our building. The first day of school, when all of a sudden there's people sitting everywhere, is always, I think at that point, it's just like the energy gets sucked out and you're like, oh, they are back.
And that's where I think I'm just going to like really enjoy that day this coming fall, because we didn't have it that, because there was a limit to how many people could be in places.
Right.
I think like I almost took that so for granted. And I think this fall when that happens, it's just going to be like, and you're just going to kind of enjoy that moment, you know?
So, yeah, I think that's just, it's the first day of school is always so exciting. It feels kind of like a New Year's Day where just everything is in front of you, and that's something I will also always cherish with working in a college setting.
It also, like, for your friends who don't work in college, when you start talking about, like, last year, next year, like, you're still talking about the academic year, and they're like, wait, what?
Or when you're saying, yeah, I'll get to that next semester, and they're like, oh, yeah. Or you're like, because we still work during spring break, but it's a slower time where maybe you're able to take a trip or something. And so when it's mentioned, like, yeah, I'll be in Houston over spring break, and they're like, that's a thing.
That's a thing, so I forgot about that. So taking COVID out of the equation, what was a more challenging thing than you expected it to be? And I always specify at this point when I ask this, challenging doesn't mean negative or bad. Challenging can be a good thing. So I'm not asking you about a bad thing. I'm asking you what's been more challenging than you thought it would be.
I think it's a challenge SGA has faced, and a challenge all of the organizations we advise face, and is just how can we do a better job letting all students know that they're a part of the Auburn family. And when SGA does listening tours with various student organizations and hearing that members of student organizations feel like they don't belong at Auburn. And so thinking about what are all the things that we can do to show every student that they do belong in the Auburn family. And so it's something that SGA has taken some good strides for, whether it's implementing Senate liaisons or recently adding an assistant vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but just continuing to challenge ourselves to never get complacent and always keep thinking about who's not in the room and how can we not just get them in the room, but make them feel welcome and know that they have a voice once they are here. So something that I think it's been really encouraging seeing our office put on our diversity, equity, and inclusion workshops and seeing students take that and back to their organizations, but just knowing that there's so much more that we can be doing.
This kind of makes me think of something else to ask you, and your answer may be, it's what I just said. Listen to me, and that's fine. If that's what you want to say, that's what you can say. But I guess, what do you wish more students on campus knew about student government? Because I think the one thing when you said that made me think of that is that everyone is a part of the Auburn family and you want everyone to feel that way. So if that's your answer, that's fine. But is there something else maybe about student government you're like, I wish everyone knew this?
And maybe every student is told this at some point, but just knowing that every student at Auburn is a member of student government. And so feeling confident in approaching your student senator about legislation that's working on, knowing how to submit an Auburn Answers, because it can be so easy from an SGA perspective to just be like, yep, we have Auburn Answers, and that's open to the whole student body and allow ourselves to get complacent. But then from an SGA perspective, really following up with those students and letting them know their concerns have been addressed. And so I think it's to students just learning ways to reach out to senators, but also from the SGA side, better positioning senators to be available by doing office hours in accessible locations and at accessible times.
Okay. What would be, because I'm going to sit whoever replaces you as the student government advisor down and say you're going to listen to this. Not this whole thing. Right. I won't force that. But this particular answer. What is your best advice to the person who comes in to advise student government after you? Because I'm like, he was very wise. Listen to what he says and do it.
That's good. I would challenge them to always remember students as individuals. One of the things that can be difficult with advising SGA is because it has such a wide-reaching portfolio and you have students regularly interacting with administrators across all facets of Auburn's org chart, you can feel like if everything is not perfect, then everything's going to be wrong. And so you sometimes would find myself struggling with focusing so much on just getting everything right with SGA that it could become possible to lose sight of the human element involved. And so just really remembering that these are students, and so yes, this is a learning environment, how they're going to make mistakes just as you will, just as I have made mistakes. And so continuing to find ways to make it a learning environment while still holding them to high standards that we know they're capable of reaching.
I will make sure they know that. I'll say, do what he says.
Right when they walk in and sit in, maybe my office is just playing on a loop.
Just play it on a loop. Because the people that are in the offices right around you, you're like, I'm sick of hearing that. I've been hearing it for months waiting on this.
Right, it's like how we all felt about Britt's voice is like how they'll feel about my
And Britt, one of the advisors, the audience will meet soon. He was the voice of the Melton Student Center during the mask mandate, saying, welcome to the Melton Student Center. Please wear your mask at all times. He would get... That's my voice again. So yeah, we'll just do that upstairs for you in an individual level in your office, and you'll just go for it. But no, that doesn't stop now that you're here. We're just going to keep his voice playing all the time. And then last question here, and let's get professional. As you're walking away, I've been asking everyone else, next year's successful if. So I'll say to you, next year when you look at what they do once you're gone, what is your hope for what they'll accomplish?
I'll pivot a little instead of, I know this group's got a lot of different executive goals they're working on, but something that we've also spent a lot of time in and thinking about how we're building up younger members, and so looking at membership retention across SGA. And it's not necessarily that students join SGA and then come back to SGA that next year, but how are they also becoming leaders in different organizations on campus as well? So really creating a culture where you do have plenty of students that are wanting to remain involved because they enjoy it while remaining open for students to join SGA at any point, and with the students that are leaving, that they're going out and further impacting campus. And so students being able to articulate how their involvement impacted campus and further their career development while positioning them to lead, whether it's on or beyond Auburn's campus.
Well, that gives the viewers kind of a better idea of who you are and what you do. But I do want to leave them with a little bit of food for thought. So it's time for our final segment, Quote Me on That, where we're each going to share a saying or a quote that we find meaningful to us. It can be meaningful, funny, thought-provoking. I say this every time. No one's hit all three yet, so challenge extended to maybe hit all three. We'll see. I've not done it yet either, and I do one every time, so I keep striking out. But mine, just to give you a second to think, mine is a John Wooden quote, the UCLA basketball coach. It takes time to create excellence. If it could be done quickly, more people would do it. You can quote me on that. I like that one because I think about, it's with all of our groups, but specific to the media groups that I advise, there's such a steep learning curve of all the equipment they have to do. And then there's the learning curve of how to use your voice on the air and then how to edit it all together. And it's not something that people come in and are good at overnight. So there's going to be some ones that don't look so good, that don't stack up to what they've seen their whole lives on TV. And a lot of times that can lead people to think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this isn't for me. So I always try to talk to them about, no, this just takes time. You know, by the end of your first semester, you're going to hate the thing you did at the beginning of the semester because you're going to be doing so much better by then. And by the time you're a senior, you're going to think the stuff you did as a freshman wasn't that good, even if it is okay. But it's that taking time. Don't let learning curves stop you from acquiring those skills, which I think we can apply anywhere in life. But I think about that with the students I work with. It's not something that people are good at overnight. It takes time. So making them comfortable with be okay not being great at it in the beginning because it's the only way you're going to get there. So that's mine.
And that's something we share with SGA Exec as well, is because it's hard during transitions because you have the incoming group is seeing the outgoing group, and so the incoming group is still trying to learn everything, and the outgoing group has really hit their stride. And so knowing that, we wish there was almost a way to keep an exec for a year and a half because right as they really start hitting their stride, they're transitioning to the new team. But knowing that anything does take time to be able to fully develop. So
I always tell students, if you didn't graduate, our jobs would be so easy.
Right.
We just have you forever.
Yeah. But
they have to go out into the world and go do things, so that's fine. We want them to graduate. We do want you to graduate. But what's your quote?
Put, you're an average of your 5 best friends. Something we'll talk, I've heard, I think, in college for the first time, but just thinking about who your 5 best friends are and knowing that who the people you surround yourself with are going to influence you in so many ways. So if you surround yourself with high-achieving people, with great people who are going to really hold you accountable ethically, then that's how you'll start behaving and following in their footsteps. So surrounding yourself with great people and knowing that of the people you're surrounding yourself with, you're going to have some of the aspects about them that you like, and there's also going to be some of the things that you don't care for in them are probably going to show up in you as well. So just making sure that you're choosing your friends wisely and surrounding yourself with people who are really going to push you and do it for the right reasons.
And I imagine that's something you probably talk to students about as they're picking their exec teams, and you're pick people that are as smart as you, smarter than you, bring people in and bring talent in. I'm sure that's something that you talk through with SGA all the time.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, just making sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are in it for the right reasons.
It's like that old concept I know of, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room.
Right.
Right. So be with people who are going to make you better,
Yeah, hire smart people and get out of their way.
You can quote them on that.
quote lady on that.
Lady on that. All right, Pearson, thank you so much for joining me down here. I know we're all going to miss you when you head to Georgia, but we're going to be rooting for you, getting your PhD, and then kind of secretly hoping you come back.
Absolutely. Same. Yeah, I appreciate you're rooting for me. Know it's a lot to say and impossible to say to root for my new institution, but the fact y'all are rooting for me is what matters. And so thank you so much for today and really for the past 3 years of our friendship, and know that it's not something that I take lightly or will forget anytime soon.
All right, same to you, and I think that's a good place to stop. So I'm Billy Ferris, and this has been Access Involvement, where discovering your path is as easy as cracking an egg on concrete.